The place on earth that Donald Trump is beloved, admired, adored, and appreciated is Israel. The only place that Benjamin Netanyahu is admired, adored, beloved is the United States. If this is not shared values, what is shared values?
The fact that we had an empire 5,000 years ago does not really influence my opinion of the situation. But you can see that level of nationalism whenever Iran is being attacked.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to the Struggle Video News. Starting with some good news. The National Education Association is the biggest teachers union in the United States. At its summer convention, some 6,000 delegates considered a resolution to cut ties with the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL. The resolution passed. It states the union will not endorse or publicize any materials from the ADL, including its curricular materials or statistics. Just a year ago, the editors at Wikipedia decided that the ADL was a generally unreliable source when it comes to writing or tweets about anti-Semitism or Israel and Palestine. The ADL will no longer be cited to back up information on the online encyclopedia. And on July 10, the Israeli paper Haaretz talked about a huge lie that Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of the ADL, said about Nimrod Cohen, an Israeli who is in Hamas captivity. Jonathan Greenblatt gave a speech in France in which he said that Cohen's brother Yotam wanted to return with the Israeli military to Gaza, but was being held back by his mother's fear of losing another son. Yehuda Cohen, the man's father, said Greenblatt's words were false, and he demanded that the ADL stop using his son's image in any way in its materials. Cohen said he had repeatedly tried to meet with Greenblatt to no avail. Cohen wrote a public letter and released a video message in which he said, "Well, Jonathan Greenblatt, we're not going to take your lies. We as a family, the Cohen family, are literally fighting to end this war and to get a hostage deal. We've been working for a long time to shift the narrative from the vague slogan, 'Bring them home,' to something more concrete, that this must include a tangible hostage deal and an end to the war and fighting," Cohen said. Learn more at Drop the ADL. Now to a portion of a speech given by Gideon Levy this week at the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs conference. Levy is a columnist and editor at the Israeli paper Haaretz.
The place on earth that Donald Trump is beloved, admired, adored, and appreciated is Israel. The only place that Benjamin Netanyahu is admired, adored, beloved is the United States. If this is not shared values, what is shared values? Some of my ex-best friends are on their way now to the real thing, to the APEC conference, which will start on this weekend. Politicians, journalists, to what I call as the annual drug dealers conference. They will discuss how many more drugs will they send to the Israel occupation-addicted state, how much more friendship will they express and how much more money and weapons will they supply. And I can tell you, in the United States, as an Israeli, we don't have a bigger enemy than the Jewish lobby. We don't have a bigger enemy for justice, for peace, for equality, than those who think that if you supply the drug addicted with more drugs, you are his friend. That if you support him blindly and automatically, whatever he does, you are a friend. No, my friends, those are not friends, those are enemies. And I can't tell you how happy and proud I am to be here today and not there tomorrow. Thank you. The title of my lecture speaks about Zionism. And Zionism is one of the two religions of Israel. And as religion, as any religion, you can't question it. The second religion is obviously the religion of security. So between Zionism and security, anyone in Israel who dares to raise any kind of question marks is immediately perceived as a traitor. It's impossible to describe you what does it mean to say that you have some questions about Zionism. Imagine yourself if you question today the other religion, if you claim that the Israeli IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, are not the most moral army in the world. Let's say they are the second moral army in the world. How dare you? We are getting it with the milk of our mothers, even though my mother was not such a Zionist, I think. But it's very hard to understand from the outside how an ideology became part of the DNA. How an ideology became something which must be taken for granted and there is no room for any question marks. I know it about myself. I know how I grew up. I know what I thought about those very, very, very few who claim that they are not Zionists or, God forbid, anti-Zionists. They were the Satans, even though they were Jews and Israelis. I don't recall one example on earth in which an ideology is so totalitarian, is so saint, is so holy that you have no right to put any kind of doubts, question marks, nothing, not about the past, not about the future, not about the present, nothing. It's unbelievable when you live in a state in which if you declare that you don't accept this ideology, you are not part of the place. You are not part of society. You have no place there. Go to Gaza, go to Damascus. Don't stay here. And this leads me to the title. Because when it comes to Zionism and friends, we have to face reality. When it comes to Zionism, there is no difference in Israel between left and right. When it comes to the occupation, which is part and parcel of Zionism, there is no meaningful difference between left and right in Israel. And when I mean left and right, I mean the so-called Zionistic left, Labour and others, and the right-wingers. The difference is only by rhetorics. So those of you, and I know some of my Israeli friends who bought already some champagne bottles, ready to open them the moment that Benjamin Netanyahu will be impeached or even go to jail, and they will celebrate how Israel is coming from darkness to light, how freedom and peace is around the corner because we got rid of the tyrant, the right-winger, the fascist, and after this the light is around the corner. As usually, I have bad news for you. Because by the end of the day, when you judge the real policy, not the rhetorics, yes, Labour and left are having much more sympathetic rhetorics, Between other sins that I committed, one of my sins was working for Shimon Peres for 4 years. He didn't stop talking about putting an end to the occupation. He didn't stop talking about it's not democratic and not justice, that one people governs another people. Beautiful, beautiful ideas that Benjamin Netanyahu and those right-wingers would have never say. But by the end of the day, Peace Nobel Prize winner Shimon Peres is the founding father of the settlements project. So what do we get out of this nice rhetorics except of showing a nice face of Israel and doing the very, very, very same crimes? So I'm here not to spread optimism, as you might know me by now. But when it comes to the basic, Israel is really united. I still remember, Grant, those days in which the joke was that 3 Israelis shared, sorry, I spoiled it. The 2 Israelis share 3 views. Today, 3 Israelis share hardly 1 view. And it will be not only Zionist, but pro-occupation. As you might know, occupation is off the table in Israel. Nobody talks about it. Nobody discussed it. Nobody is concerned about the occupation. It is, like one of those things, like the rain, like the sun, force majeure. Some like it less. But nobody thinks that anything can be done about it. It doesn't bother us so much. That's the truth. It's only half an hour away from our homes, but who hears about it and who cares about it? And the crimes are on a daily basis, but really daily basis. The media hardly covers them, and if they cover them, it will be always according to the Zionistic narrative. A terrorist of 12, a girl of 14 with scissors in her hands as an existential threat to the state of Israel. A girl who is slapping a soldier as someone who deserves life sentence, not less than this. A girl that 1 hour before her cousin was shot in his head 50 meters away from her home. So now the Israeli army claims that this was fabricated. I mean, even the Israeli propaganda lost its shame. When Israel dares to claim that this child, Muhammad Tamimi, whom I met a few days after he was injured, he lost half of his brain, that he fabricated his injury, then you see that Israel is really desperate. If Israel needs this kind of level of propaganda, if Israel is getting so low in denying shooting in the head of a child of 15 and claiming that he fell from the bicycles, then you know that things are getting worse. Maybe it's a hope for a new beginning. The only place on earth that Donald Trump is beloved, admired, adored, and appreciated is Israel.
What you'll see next comes from the Facebook page of Nurit Peled El-Hanan. She's an Israeli educator. Her late father was a well-known Israeli general. The video is 27 seconds long. It was originally posted on July 4th. You may want to look away. What it shows is Palestinians on their bellies with their arms handcuffed behind them while a soldier patrols with a barking German shepherd. On the wall nearby, an Israeli flag with the word Israel lives. As you've noticed, the view twists near the end. That's how the video was recorded. There was no explanation of the source of the video, whether from an Israeli soldier with a conscience or one infected by sadism. This is the lead editorial in Israel's oldest newspaper, Haaretz. It begins, "For President Donald Trump's attention, when the person submitting your name as a candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize is promoting the construction of a concentration camp into which the entire population of the Gaza Strip will be herded, with no ability to leave unless people choose to emigrate, it's not clear whether he is being a sycophant or sabotaging your candidacy." The background to this is Israel's latest hideous plan to construct a humanitarian city on the ruins of Rafah that would keep all the people of Gaza inside it. No one could leave except to depart from Palestine completely and permanently. Presumably, all the people inside would be fed forever by world charity organizations via an Israeli humanitarian organization like the atrocity it uses now. Yad Vashem, the Israeli Holocaust Memorial Institution, commented on this, but not to condemn this further step in genocide, but to criticize an Israeli newscaster who called the idea the building of a concentration camp. Arad Nir said the obvious: when you concentrate people in tent cities on top of rubble and give them food there, that's a concentration camp. The learned fellows of Yad Vashem slammed him, saying, as is well known, the Nazis established concentration camps with the intent to exterminate the Jews, driven by a murderous ideology. And Yad Vashem contended the intent of the Israeli areas, which are going by the lovely name of humanitarian aid compounds, is quite different. The TV Foreign Affairs newsman Arad Nir apologized. Yet as Yad Vashem knows full well, the term concentration camp is far older than the Nazi era. It was invented by the British in their colony in South Africa 130 years ago during their war against the Boers. In Britain, there's a group called Palestine Action, which has damaged property to try to stop British armaments from going to Israel. The British government has taken the extraordinary step of declaring Palestine Action a terrorist organization. These people demonstrated against the government measure, a brave step, since giving support to a terrorist organization can set you up on charges of being a terrorist supporter. Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on Palestine, issued a new report concerning corporations making fortunes taking part in Israel's forever war in Gaza. So Secretary of State Rubio went ballistic and decided to sanction Albanese. We'll link to the report in our Palestine-Israel archive. Scan this QR code and get to the archive. By the way, Elbit, which Connecticut's Treasury has stock worth $2 million, was mentioned in the report 19 times. Promoting Enduring Peace held a Zoom on June 24th, a date which turned out to be near the tail end of the Israel-U.S. war on Iran. The Zoom featured Yassamine Mather and his Iranian socialist exile in Britain. We showed part of her talk 2 weeks ago. we'll show a bit more now. She makes it plain that while she despises the Israeli attack on Iran, she has to talk about the weaknesses of the regime in Iran and how that theocratic dictatorship might react against completely innocent people.
So I think we do want the defeat of the US, UK allies of Israel. We want the defeat of the Israeli government. Irrespective of the ceasefire, the people of Gaza are still suffering and will continue to suffer from genocide, starvation. And it really is clear when you go, for example, to demonstrations in London, that the ordinary people of this country are completely opposed to the kind of propaganda that the state and its broadcaster put out in terms of the right of Israel to defend itself because of October 7th and so on. But then I think in Iran, the situation is very difficult. So first of all, during the bombings, I think people stopped or rallied around the nation, the country, rather than the Islamic Republic. And here, as a Marxist, I have dual feelings on this, because obviously this strong level of nationalism that Iranians have was good in the last 2 weeks, but it's bad in other aspects. It is a very patriotic type of nationalism and relies on culture, history, some of which is good, some of which is not so good. The fact that we had an empire 5,000 years ago does not really influence my opinion of the situation. But you can see that level of nationalism whenever Iran is being attacked. During the Iran-Iraq war, we saw it. We are seeing it now. In terms of organization, so the bombings left most Iranian people with little defense. The government could not even manage proper sirens. This is partly because the planes were too fast. This wasn't like the Iran-Iraq war, where they could warn people and take them to encourage them to go to shelters. At various times, the internet was completely down. There are two stories. One is that the infrastructure for the internet was damaged. The other is that the state stopped it. But whatever the reason, warnings were not given for people to save their lives. And as a result, more people died. However, communities organized very well, self-organized. And this is something that a lot of people in Iran are telling me, is that the traditions of COVID, where people were left defenseless against the pandemic, with the state not doing what a state should do in terms of defending its citizens. Local communities had organized help groups for people, and this is something that can be the foundations of communities within local committees, local councils, which are quite familiar to Iranians from the time of 1979, for a different generation, but we can see it. The state will not control prices, so there has to be a serious campaign to combat this. The state must come under pressure to continue what it had started, but very under pressure it had started it, which was the acceptance of the right of women to choose what they were. And I think the danger is that now, with the excuse of the foreign threat, quite a lot of repressive measures that had been a little bit relaxed over the last year will come back. And obviously there has to be resistance, because if the state starts infringing on any of those limited freedoms, it will go further. There is also the issue of revenge. Now, the Iranian government is claiming that some people were agents of Mossad. and helped Israel. I'm sure there were some, but what comrades inside Iran are telling me is they are fearful that the government would do the type of revenge it did at the end of Iran-Iraq war. At the end of Iran-Iraq war, the Mujahideen Khalq, supported now by neoconservatives in the US, Giuliani and so on, waged a show attack in the west of Iran. It was defeated. It was inevitable. They were supporting Saddam Hussein at the time. They were defeated, but the government took revenge by going to prisons and executing political prisoners, not just members of Mujahideen who had nothing to do with their activities in Iraq, but also the left. Quite a large number of leftist activists were executed during that period. So there is a precedence for the Iranian government taking revenge on political prisoners. We should be wary of that. And inside Iran, people are very concerned that that might happen.
And sure enough, the Iranian regime started expelling Afghan refugees in Iran by the hundreds of thousands. Iranian exile Siavash Shahabi reported on July 7th that at least 449,000 Afghan migrants had been deported from Iran to Afghanistan between the beginning of June and July 5th. To see Mather's whole talk, go to our YouTube channel. Easiest way to get there is to go to our site, thestrugglevideo.org, and then below the picture of our current program, click on the link to all our video. That's our program for today. See you next time. I'm Stanley Heller for the Struggle Video News.